How's it going, everybody? I hope you're, whoa, shaky. Hold still, tripod. I hope you're having a wonderful day, a happy Monday. We're gonna get this week started off right with a tip video. Today I'm gonna be telling you how you can acquire professional grade camera equipment from $0. I did it. I believe you can do it too. So grab yourself a cup of coffee or a cup of tea or whatever you're gonna grab. Maybe pull up Amazon while we're talking about this or eBay and just scroll and dream. I do it all the time. It's incredibly unhealthy. I don't suggest it. All right, let's get into the video. He sticks the landing. Okay, so acquiring camera gear from $0. How in the heck do you acquire camera gear from $0? I'm gonna tell you. So when I first got into photography and cinematography, I started with nothing. My wife had a Canon Rebel T3 series, but that camera is actually more worthless than the box that it currently resides in. Like, it was a trash camera. She barely used it, I barely used it, so I pretty much started from nothing. But what I used to do is I used to go out and I used to promote myself as a photographer and as a cinematographer, and I would go out and book weddings and portrait sessions and lifestyle and product photos and that sort of thing. I would book it with no camera gear whatsoever, but I had friends who had camera gear, so I would book with, let's say it was a wedding. I would reach out to somebody and they would say, hey, we need a photographer, or we need someone to film our wedding, and I'd say, great, awesome, I can do it. And they would say, awesome, how much is your rate? And I would say, 1 second. And then I would go onto the other line. No lie, this is a true story. I used to text my friends and say, hey, I've got a wedding coming up in a couple of months. Can I borrow your camera and like one lens? And my friends would always be like, yeah, sure, because they knew I was good for it. And more often than not, I would spot them 50 bucks, 100 bucks, whatever cost I felt like was reasonable for renting their gear. And then once they agreed to it, I would come back to the other line and I would tell them, absolutely, I can do it. Here's my price. And I would price myself high enough that the $50 to $100 that I was paying my friend didn't really matter in the long run. All I knew was that I was getting a camera and a lens to go out and do the job. So I would go out, do the job, do the very best that I could, learn as much as I could about the camera while I had it in my hands, while I was using it. I would take the cash, pay my friends, give them their gear back, and then pocket that cash. And I did this for months. I booked so many shoots, portrait sessions, and lifestyle, and weddings with no camera gear whatsoever. I was constantly borrowing gear from people who were just kind enough to loan me their gear. But I did it for long enough that I was eventually able to pocket enough money, save up enough money, and I bought my first DSLR, which was a Canon 80D. Now, when I first bought that camera, I was so proud of myself. I was so stoked. I could not believe that I had actually stuck to it and I had actually saved enough money to afford an actual DSLR to start shooting videos and start shooting photos and doing those type things, actually booking shoots, and now I don't have to borrow gear from people. Now, with the 80D, I had the kit lens, the 18 to 55, but again, a trash lens. It pretty much comes with all the Rebel series cameras, and it's not a very good lens. I do not recommend that lens to anybody. If you bought a camera and it came with an 18 to 55, if it's all you can afford, then 100% use it, make it work. But if you can afford $130, I say go to Best Buy today and buy a 50mm 1.8 lens. It's like $130 and it is an incredible lens. So that was legitimately all I had. I had the 50mm 1.8 and the Canon 80D, and that was all I used for the longest time. I was shooting weddings, I was shooting portraits, I was shooting all sorts of stuff, and I really got to know that camera and lens combination very well. Eventually I was able to save up enough money to buy myself a 17 to 40 L version lens, which is not a very great lens. I mean, it did what I needed it to do because it was wide enough that I could really get those beautiful like landscape photos and really get nice wide shots for weddings. But it was aperture f4. It's a very cheaply built lens, but you know, again, it did the job, but it wasn't ideal. So I kept shooting with my Canon 80D, my 50mm, and my 17 to 40, and I was knocking weddings off left and right. I was doing portraits and all sorts of stuff until eventually I earned enough money to where I felt confident that I could sell my camera and I could sell the little L lens that I had bought. I could sell those two things together in a bundle package and I could afford a nicer camera. And that's what I did. I took them and I sold them on Facebook Marketplace and eventually saved up enough money to purchase the camera that I'm shooting on right now, which is the EOS 6D Mark II by Canon. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I love this camera. camera. This camera does everything that I need it to do. Apart from shooting 120 frames, I've had a couple of little tastes of 120 frames per second, and I would really love to be able to purchase a 1DX Mark II one day. When I save up enough money, I'm gonna put all that money towards a 1DX Mark II, and that will become my everyday shooter, because I need a camera that can do everything. It can do photos, and it can do 4K, and it can do 120 frames, and all of that other sort of stuff. And I've had a chance to shoot on 1DX a couple of times, and it's just a beast of a camera. But so back to the story. So I had the 6D Mark II, but I had gotten rid of my wide angle lens. So I was back to exclusively shooting with the 50mm 1.8 lens. Now, I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty challenging because 50mm is not very wide. I mean, it's a great focal length because it is equivalent to what the human eye sees, and it has a low aperture of 1.8, so it lets in a lot of light, and you get a great depth of field and all that other sort of good stuff. But it's very challenging to shoot landscapes or to shoot weddings or really to shoot video on because it's just not a very wide lens. But I rocked my Canon 6D Mark II with the 50mm 1.8 for the longest time, until eventually I had shot enough weddings, enough portraits, enough whatever to afford a better lens. And so I bought a Canon 35mm 1.4, the Mark I version. Now, I've heard a lot of people say that the Mark II is better, and we're not really going to get into the specifics here, but all you need to know is that the 35mm 1.4, the Mark I version, it works for me. My wife was really wanting a 35mm, and so did I, to be honest. So we bought it, and it's wider, and it looks really great for portraits. It looks really great for weddings and all of that other sort of thing, but it's not the most ideal lens for stuff like this, shooting, you know, in-home B-roll sequences and that sort of stuff, because it's kind of in this weird stage where it's not quite wide enough to, say, vlog with or maybe shoot a video in my apartment with. It's not quite wide enough for that, but it's also not telephoto enough that I can shoot really good, like, tight isolating B-roll. So again, it's great for portraits, it's great for weddings, and that's what we primarily bought it for, but I need something for this. So guess what I'm doing? I'm actually saving my money right now from weddings and from portraits and from lifestyle and commercial shoots and that sort of thing to purchase a better lens. And I'm not gonna tell you what that lens is just yet. You're just gonna have to see it whenever I get it, but it's very close. I will be acquiring this lens probably within the next 3 or 4 weeks. But until then, I'm just playing the hand that I've been dealt. So that's how I legitimately started from nothing. I started with no camera equipment, just borrowing equipment from friends until I could eventually afford to purchase a camera body of my own. And then I kept shooting until I could get something better. And then I kept shooting until I got to, and I just kept going, and I'll keep going until one day I feel satisfied that I have the equipment that can easily do the job that I need to do every day, day in, day out. And honestly, I don't think I'll ever get there. I don't think I'll ever get to a place where the gear that I have is just the best that it can possibly be, because I'm constantly changing as a filmmaker and as a photographer. The style of videos that I like, the style of photos that I like, I'm constantly changing my mind and mixing it up and changing things. So I'm sure that I'll continue to buy and sell camera gear until eventually I get bored with making videos and taking photos, but that's a pretty long ways off. Alright guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, please feel free to give it, a thumbs up, or, comment down below what gear you're using or where you started. I'd love to have a conversation with you guys. Don't forget to subscribe, because it's helping my channel kind of move along, and it also kind of fuels me to keep making videos like this. It lets me know what videos are working and what videos aren't. If you want to, go check me out on Instagram. My Instagram handle is The Real Centro. You can go check it out. Go look at some of my photos, some of my videos. Maybe send me a DM and say what up. I'd love to talk to you guys. But yeah, anyways, all right. You guys have a great, wonderful rest of your day. Have a great Monday. Have a great rest of your week. And I will see you guys when will I see you? Probably this week again. I'm sure I'll see you again this week. You guys have a good one. Bye.